Thank you. I'm here to welcome you to our first afternoon session. Welcome, and I hope you had a nice lunch. Our first speaker this afternoon is Bill DeVor. Many of you may know his name because he's been hybridizing roses for a very long time, has been in the family business for a long time. He used to have Northeast roses, and now he has Green Heart Farm. So without further ado, and the other thing is, he's the one that made us all the Jolene Adams rose that you got when you came in. So with no further ado, this is Bill DeVor. Thank you, Bill, for being here.
All righty. Let's see. Everybody hears me okay? All righty. How many people here are from out of the area? How many people had to drive more than 30 minutes to get here? Okay. Just so everybody understands where you're at right now, from about 1923 until about 1965 was the rose growing capital of the world. Where the San Jose International Airport now stands was the very first home of Jackson & Perkins' very first wholesale growing fields. And not more than 20 minutes ago from here is where Jackson & Perkins, Armstrong, DeVor Nurseries, Conklin Nurseries, they were all there. They were all there for the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s. So, oh yeah, it was spread all around. Pleasanton was the main hub. Pleasanton was really the main hub for a long time when it was a town of about 500 people. So, but this used to be it. And what drove everybody out of here was a couple things. Land got expensive, and crown gall. Crown gall went out of control, agrobacterium. And once that got into the soil, they all fled to the San Joaquin Valley into Arizona and to Northern California to get away from that disease. Remember, back in those days, almost everybody grew on multiflora rootstock, and multiflora is extremely susceptible to crown gall. So, there, little tidbit to start. Anyway, so, say again? Multiflora, the plant? Yeah, multiflora, the rootstock, the rose, Rosa multiflora. So, anyway, my name is Bill DeVor. I'm from San Luis Obispo, California, which I found out today is about a 4-hour drive. So, got up at 4 o'clock this morning, loaded up 100,000 roses, jumped in my truck. I'm here, going back. We're going to load another 100,000 when I get home. So, I'm going to go through about 5 or 6 slides here to kind of give you an idea of who I am and where I come from. And then we'll get into what's going to be happening in the future with roses. And I also love to give a big update on where the industry is. So, jumping in, Green Heart Farms is the name of the company where I work. And I started out there as the head grower about 15 years ago. And now I'm the general manager and all the wonderful things that come with that. And I'm still the head rose grower. Green Heart Farms grows 1 billion seedling plants a year. 1 billion with a B. Okay? We're about 750,000 square feet of greenhouses and about 14 acres of outdoor growing area. If it's a vegetable, and you can name it, we grow it. Okay? We grow the starter plants for the farmers. So rather than a farmer direct seeding in the field, we plant a plant, deliver it to him ready to go, so they don't have to waste all that time germinating, spraying, irrigating, and coming up with maybe a 70 or an 80% stand. They take a small vegetable transplant from us, going to the ground with the perfect stand from day one. So not only are they more efficient because they have a better stand, they can also grow up to 2 more crops a year on that same ground. So it makes their ground much more productive for them. That was Green Heart's main business. It's a 32-year-old company. 15 years ago, I showed up. My job was to diversify. The very first thing I went into was roses. And why did I pick roses? Okay. Oh, went the wrong way, didn't I? Okay, sorry, John. There, that funny little pea-looking shape is our operation, and that sits about 700 feet up above the Pismo Dunes. So we're literally right on the ocean. Yeah. Rio Grande side of the, we basically sit on a giant mesa. We're on the Arroyo Grande side of the Nipomo Mesa, overlooking the Pismo Dunes. Arroyo Grande and Pismo Beach are right next to each other. 4 generations, I'm going to get into that in a second. State-of-the-art technology, I'm going to get into that in a second. Unique product form, I'm going to get into that in a second. And award-winning genetics. We grow everybody's genetics, so we get them all. 4 generations of experience. This is the only picture I ever had of me, my great-grandfather, my granddad, and my dad all in one. That was taken in Pleasanton.
So Jeannie's your sister, right?
Aunt. Yes, Aunt Jeannie. She's my dad's sister. Yeah. George DeVor. Born and raised in West Virginia until he was about 9 years old. His older brother and his older sister decided to move out to Washington to see the West. They all got out there. The older brother and older sister didn't leave it and left their 9-year-old little brother in Washington all by himself. Okay, so that would have been in 1908, 1907, somewhere in there. He went to work as a field laborer when he was 9 years old, budding cherry trees, plum trees, all that type of stuff. Ended up going to Montana, doing more nursery work. By that time, he's getting into his 20s, and he moves down to San Jose, and he starts growing fruit trees down here and playing around with roses. He did that for 1 year when a company from out in New Jersey saw what he was doing and came out and bought him out. That became Jackson & Perkins of California. So he was the first major volume producer of roses for Jackson & Perkins, and it was the first production of roses in California for Jackson & Perkins. He literally went from trying to figure out how to grow roses commercially to growing 20 million roses a year for Jackson & Perkins within 10 years. And he stayed with Jackson & Perkins from 1923 until 1947 as the president, general manager, and head grower. Quite a hard worker, quite a very ingenious horticulturist. He is the man who put roses on Dr. Huey. Okay, and we're going to get into that in great detail in a second. But how many people in this room believe putting a rose on a rootstock makes it hardier? Okay, it doesn't. None of them. It might allow them to survive. That would be it. But that's only because they were bred poorly and they can't grow on their own root. Okay. Roses were put on a rootstock because you could mass produce them easier. That's the only reason they ever went on a rootstock. And there's all kinds of stories out there about how rootstocks are better for this or better for that. And it was all about mass production. And that's the guy who did it, the old guy with the glasses and the hat. His son, Paul DeVor, was the businessman. And in 1947, George DeVor decided to leave Jackson & Perkins, so they bought him out for a period of 5 years. And they basically paid him his salary for 5 years not to compete against them. And his son, Paul, took over. Paul graduated from UC Davis when he was 15 years old. He was brilliant. And he took Jackson & Perkins on until about, for another 10 years, and then him and his father got back together here in Pleasanton and started a company called DeVor Nurseries, where they focused on pot-forcing roses and varieties for the greenhouse industry. So basically, they grew 1-year-old bare root rose bushes, which were sold to greenhouses for cut flower production. They dominated 98% of the world market in cut flower varieties for over 60 years, until 1981, really. The gentleman you see on the far left is Dr. Walter Lammertz. He hybridized the Rose Queen Elizabeth. He was DeVor's main breeder. Another fun picture up on the top, and it's not blown up enough, but if you see on the top right-hand corner, the crew out there with all the big white hats, that was one of the last pictures of a true Filipino budding crew. That's kind of fun. It's before things changed around. My dad He passed away 2 years ago. If you can see the gentleman with the glass and the lady holding the bouquet and the little kid poking his head up in the back, that's when they were presenting the very first Queen Elizabeth roses to her lady in waiting here at the San Francisco airport. The reason I show these slides is I am passionate about roses. Aside from the money, aside from anything, it's about roses. Secondly, I'm passionate about this industry. And Baldo, how's it going, man? Should run down and give him a kiss. I'm disappointed with a lot of what I've read recently about the rose industry and the state of it. Because honestly, every industry has gone through change. And we have a lot more change to go through. Things are changing, so what we know, or what we knew versus what we know now, it's drastically different. And a lot of people don't like change. But if the rose industry is going to survive, it has to go through this. The reason the rose industry, okay, let me go back and rephrase this a little bit. There's about 20,000 people in ARS. So you people don't count. Okay? No. When it comes to horticulture, we've got something like 45 million active gardeners, I mean extremely active gardeners, in the western United States alone. Okay? And that number is in the hundreds of millions on the eastern side. They garden way more than what we garden out here. Two whole different crowds. It's easy out here. You have to work for it out there. Okay. The American rose industry spent the past 100 years teaching their customers to be absolutely terrified of the product they were producing. Okay? Roses are hard to take care of. You have to prune them to make them bloom again. They get this disease. They get that disease. They need full sunlight. Yada, 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 yada. It goes on and on. We terrified our customers. I mean, the awards things, and there's probably a bunch of rose people out here who are going to throw stuff at me. Double ARS, crock of shit. ARS, same thing. The mini rose excellence thing, this is politics. Okay? I've won so many awards that I didn't deserve to win because of politics. Okay? What's the best rose? The best rose is the right rose for the person who's buying it. That's it. Whether you're an exhibitor or you're just trying to have something along the driveway, or you're trying to get rid of that ivy in the front yard and you want something else looking better in that planter, that's the right rose for you. What it's supposed to do is keep its leaves on and bloom. The color, the flower form, and all of that, that's up to the eye of the beholder. Okay? In 1985, there were 65 million bare root roses harvested between California, Arizona, and Texas. This coming winter, there will be 32 million bare root roses harvested in the same area. And you know what? That's the right number. That's the right number. Why do I say that? In 1985, Jackson Perkins burned almost 4 million roses behind their cooler. We had, sorry? In Oregon? No, gosh, that's in Wasco on Kimberlina Road. That's a shipping facility. Production is California, Arizona. Bear Creek Gardens, Harry and David, all that stuff up in Medford. That's basically, what's the people with the smiley face on the box? Amazon. It's basically the Amazon of roses. There's no production up there. 32 million bare root roses sold a year, and about half of that number is now grown on its own root, and the other half is still the traditional 1-year-old or 2-year-old budded rose bush. Okay? I think that's where we're going to be for a while. At least 10 years. Do I think that number is going to get bigger? Absolutely not. Do I think the own root part of that number is going to go up? Oh, yes, most definitely. Why? Well, number one, it's a better rose bush. Okay? Number two, my personal favorite, it's cheaper to produce. Okay? Far cheaper to produce. The disease resistance and hardiness thing, you got Dr. David Burns sitting here in the audience. I don't know if Ping's in here. Hey, Ping. These are people that are focused on these things, and that's what they should be doing. You've got Bill Radler, who bred the knockout rose. You've got Dr. Jim Sproul in Wasco, who's working on specific things. Everybody has very specific directions they're working on, and they're doing a good job at it. And what we have coming to us in the future in the industry, in the marketplace, all of that, is exactly what the industry needs. Honestly, I still believe there's far too many varieties on the market, but like I said, that's up to you guys. If you're buying them, we're going to grow them. The economy, the industry. Where's Jackson & Perkins? Owned by an investment company called Blackstreet. Trying to repair the damage that's been done so they can sell it again. Okay? What's going on with all those varieties? Those varieties are all just fine. They're just waiting to see what's going to happen in the future. Okay? I personally have about 150 of those varieties that I'm maintaining at Greenheart that aren't being sold. They're not gone. We're just waiting to see where are they going to go. What's the right fit for Jackson & Perkins in the industry? Okay? It's trying to redefine itself. It's not gone. It's just trying to find out when is it going to be born again. I have personal opinions on what Jackson & Perkins should be. Very close personal connection with that company. But it's going to take a little bit of time. But those varieties, all that great stuff that came out from Dr. Warner and whatnot, it'll be back. Weeks, I don't know. Christian can tell you guys tomorrow when he's here. I believe he's going to be here tomorrow. Weeks is struggling. They've been bought twice in the past decade. It's no different than us trying to find leadership as a country. They're trying to find leadership as a company. And they need direction. Connor Pyle, Star Roses, they're on fire. They're just absolutely laying waste. They can't do anything wrong. Knockouts, they came in and kind of revolutionized the product forms, which we're going to get into. Let me make sure I'm okay. But they're further ahead than anybody else on doing what I think you guys are looking for, and that's putting hybrid teas and grandifloras and climbers on their own route so that we're not staring at knockouts and we're not staring at these single-flowered shrub roses. There you guys want big, fragrant, flowerful, colorful exhibition-style roses. Well, that's where they're going to be coming from for the next 10 years or so. And they just have done nothing but light the world on fire with what they're doing. And I think last year was probably the first big own root crop to hit the market. This year, an even bigger one. Next year is going to be 3 times bigger than this year. Now, when I get into that, what I'm talking about is, what would be a good one? You've ever heard of the rose mother of pearl, or Adobe Sunrise, or Cherry Parfait, or Passionate Kisses, or Elle, or Black Baccara, or California Dreamin', or Girls Night Out. These are all big type roses. This is the type of stuff that they've been working on, trying to get into that own root world, and they're up to 180 varieties. I think 80% of their catalog's on its own root this coming year. And they've just phenomenal work. This is a lot of the work we're doing with the Jackson & Perkins stuff right now. But when we say, we want to take Queen Elizabeth, I'm using that as an example, I don't think it'll ever work, but just say we want to use Queen Elizabeth on its own route, it takes us 7 years to figure that out. Yes, sir?
Look at some of the old Armstrong.
When you say Armstrong, are we talking about the Rose Company or the Nursery Center?
The Rose Company.
Okay. All the Armstrong stuff was sucked up by Jackson & Perkins. Yeah, when Moet Hennessy sold it to Jackson & Perkins or to Harry and David, the vast majority of that disappeared. And I'll elaborate on that in a second because there's been a bunch of work, and I didn't jump into this, but for fun, my name's Bill. Paul, or George, my great-grandfather, had two sons. Paul, who I showed you that graduated from UC Davis when he was 15, he had another son named Bill. That's who I was named after. He's the guy who ran Armstrong. Yeah. We literally, for about 40, 50 years, you had a DeVor everywhere. Lousy business people except for Granddad, but pretty good rose growers. Okay. Okay. The industry's doing fine. It's just recreating itself. The varieties you guys are looking for, and honestly, everybody wants a rose that looks like a rose. Okay? And that's what all the work's focused on right now. They got disease resistance and hardiness. The pros are working on that. And what we're playing with right now is so much better than what we were playing with 20 years ago. Right now, it's all about the rose, the flower itself, the fragrance. You know, I shipped out about 1,500 pots of heirloom yesterday, all about 3 foot tall in 2-gallon cans. And we had that truck all loaded up with racks. And we were getting ready to close those doors, and that guy fired that reefer on, and you could smell heirloom 100 feet away. The aroma just came out of the back of that truck. It's really what we're aiming for. Okay, and yes, ma'am.
Does heirloom grow as well on its own root as it does?
Phenomenally.
Really?
Yeah, I'll tell you some fun ones that I found out. Olympiad just kicks butt. Don Juan, the climber, America, the climber, heirloom, Sun Sprite, Sun Flare, Class Act. I got a few Flories in there, sorry. Black Magic's doing super duper. I'm trying to go down the list here real quick and think if I can remember some other. Queen Elizabeth we're still playing with. Lincoln we're playing with. Chrysler Imperial we're playing with. Montezuma's doing well. Love's on the edge. It's a little soft. It's a little soft. But we're doing the research on all of this stuff, which we're going to get into as we go through this. We're testing them all.
What about them on the water?
No, never. Never. Remember earlier when I said we taught our customers to be afraid of the product we were producing? Greatest flower in the world, but everything under that flower is trash.
Oh, that's true, but it's got such a nice fragrance.
I'm not arguing with you, but okay. John, switching to the slides.
Thank you.
Okay. This whole miniature rose thing, or not miniature rose thing, this rose liner thing we're going to be getting into, I'm going to jump through a couple slides. This all started when I was about 9 years old. And right next to our house up in Chico, I'm from Chico, right up next to our house, Granddad DeVor, Paul, built a greenhouse for me, 5,000 square foot greenhouse. And he said, this is where the industry is going, figure it out. So I did, or I'm working on it still, I guess. We knew labor was going to be a problem. We knew land was going to be a problem. Okay? The varieties back then, we were playing mostly with the costers, the polyanthas, the garnets, those type of things. That was the easiest place to start and play. Obviously, I started on the fairy. That was my practice variety for years. We knew that we needed to come up with a way for farmers to become more efficient. When I say farmers, I'm talking about the bare root farmers. Where this whole thing actually ended up, or is ending up right now, is completely different than what we ever would have envisioned. Okay. That's a shot, anyway, of a propagation house. Some of you have been there. That's basically what a house looks like when it's ready to give cuttings. As I refer to this a little later on, you see the two plants on the bottom? Those are baby roses ready to be transplanted, either into a bare root field or into a container to be finished in that container. Okay. Now, does everybody understand exactly what a known root rose bush is? There's no root stock between the top and the bottom. It's all self-contained. Okay. What happened here is, let me go back to September 1st. Starting September 1st of this year through the week before Thanksgiving, I will ship 6 million rose bushes. Okay? Every one of the rose bushes I ship in that time period go to Wasco and go to Phoenix, Arizona, where they are planted in the ground, and the farmers will then grow them for an entire year and harvest a bare root rose the following year. That was my main objective. Okay? What happened along the way was I had, what do I have? 8.5 other months to sell roses in. Well, what did I do? Okay, well, the first thing is well, let's grow some miniature roses. We can grow those year round. Let's get northeast. Let's get tiny petals. Ended up working with Texas A&M on Ralph Moore's stuff. So we got involved in the retail rose world, somewhere we never should have played. Okay? I'm able to manage that entire operation easier, our entire operation easier than it was to manage one little retail mail order company. I've never seen anything so stressful, unforgiving, and expensive to run. You know, we lost so much money trying to run that thing that it just finally got to be the point, you know what, we're going to grow the plants and we'll let other people sell them. Last night, just for fun, I haven't looked at it for years. I went on to Garden Buddies, I went on to Garden Watchdog, I went on to Garden Forum, and I went on to rosarianscorner.net. I went to all of them and I read, and I went back until I could find comments about northeast. Where is northeast? What happened with northeast? Yada, yada, yada. And I'm sitting there reading all the comments, and I'm going, oh my gosh, I think that, you know, there's a big hole out there. We left a pretty big hole. And someone asked me the other day, and they said, what was the final breaking point for you to shut that thing down? The final breaking point was reading one of those forums. And everybody remember Cliff Orent? I went on there the week before I decided to shut it down, and Cliff Orent, who was suffering with his own business, was telling everybody Home Depot was having a sale on mini roses. And I said, if someone who's struggling in their own business is going to do this, what am I to do? And I walked away from it. The last year we sold Northeast miniature roses, we sold 250,000 mini roses of Northeast, Harmsville, and Ralph. That was it. 250,000 roses of the retail. And we probably did about 100,000 wholesale. Already this year, we've sold almost 1.5 million wholesale. What we're having a hard time is conveying to everybody where to find them. Cheryl Bear was out here. Cheryl, right? Yeah. Rich and Cheryl. Yeah. They were out there, and she says, I thought you said all of Frank Bernardella's roses were going to be in Lowe's. And I said, well, they are. We put 3 racks in every Lowe's store in the United States this year. And do you realize that the longest that the 3 racks lasted in any store was 2.5 hours? We did over 150,000 of the Frank's mini flora varieties. And the sell-through was 99%. This year, that number went to 500,000. So this coming winter, that's what they're going to put into the stores. Anyway, back to where I started. We were trying to find something to fill in the year, so we went to the miniature rose companies. But while all that was going on, nurseries were finding out that rather than buying a bare root rose, some of them were more suited to get a liner from us and put it directly into a container. So skip the bare root process, take our liner, put it directly into a pot, and 3 months later or 4 months later, they had a plant as big as a 1-year-old bare root plant. Well, what were the things that were affecting them? Well, number one, you could get roses all year long. You didn't have to just get them 3 months of the year. Number two, if you're going to buy a 48-foot semi-truck full of bare root rose bushes, you're going to fit 18,000 to 24,000 rose bushes on that truck. If you're going to put on a liner, one of the small plants I just showed you, you're going to fit about 200,000 plants on one truck. When you ship a truck and it costs you about $8,000 for that truck from go to one side of the United States to the other, you can see how much cheaper it is to ship a liner. Fits into any production schedule. Well, people have slow times during the year, so if they say in June, oh, we're all sold out, spring's over, let's bring the liners in. Let's get our rose crop going early. Easy handling and planting. The thorns are really small when they're on a liner. More growing points for fuller plants, that's really a crock, because an own root 1-year-old plant or a liner, it's the same thing. It's just an own root plant, you have this infinite number of eyes for bottom breaks to come from, or basal shoots. All growth is true to variety. Everybody knows if you drive by the stop sign out in the country and you got that big, beautiful red rose growing up, it's Dr. Huey. You don't have to deal with that with own root. Shipped actively growing. The biggest problem for bare root rose growers are the credits they take in February and March on the plants that didn't force. On the own root plants, they're hitting the ground running. No treatment to break dormancy, same story. Yes?
What is a liner?
A liner, okay, is just a small transplant, a plug. They call it a liner because in the old days, when the nurserymen used to put stalk out in the field, they'd put them in a straight line. They called that lining out stalk. So we gave them the nickname liners. In the vegetable industry, that same plant, we call them plugs because they plug them into the ground. I'm going to show you. How's that? So, am I walking around too much, or am I pulling off the Reagan thing? We're okay? Okay. We grow 4 different sizes of plants at Greenheart, and they're all really small. The 4.5-inch pot, that's what you guys got the Jolene Adams rose in. The 72 cell, oh, she mislabeled it, booger. Okay, the big one is a 32 cell LE pot, right next to the big pot. And basically, that's 50 millimeters wide. So it's just a little bit smaller than that 4.5-inch pot. Oftentimes, a nursery will buy that plant from us. It's about 16 weeks old. And they'll drop it into a 2 or a 3 or a 5-gallon can, grow it on for 3 months, and have a full-blown garden rose. Like, for example, Heinz up here, they probably buy 250,000 of those a year from us now rather than getting bare root. The 72 cell LE pot, that's what the bare root growers get from us. That's about 35 centimeters, okay? It's probably about that big by about that deep. And that's what the bare root growers get from us. The little itty bitty 128 cell LE pot, that's what all the miniature rose people buy. Because they can take 1, 2, 3, 4 of those, depending on the size container they're going into, and drop them in there. And that little 128 is only 25 centimeters, so about the size of a quarter. Okay? Oh.
You don't find varieties anymore. You know, when you're looking for a miniature rose variety.
We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. One thing you guys keep seeing, this LE pot thing, and I want to explain that. Most of the time, you go down to the store and you buy a 6-pack of pansies, petunias, whatever you get, and you pull it out, it's loose soil. Okay? Sometimes that just falls apart on you. We came up with an innovation about 5 years ago working with a Danish company, and all those little cells are wrapped in an organic paper, which holds the soil together. So when you hear that LE pot term, that's what we're talking about. Okay, I'm going to jump through some of this stuff really quick because I'm going to run out of time. Whether we ship on semis or we ship in boxes, FedEx, UPS, or however it goes, our focus in the industry is on the smaller and medium-sized growers. We still do a lot of work with growers who grow for box stores, but our main focus is the small and medium-sized growers. The vast majority of our customers, honestly, are small farmers on the East Coast, farmers market type stands. We have 4,500 current customers buying roses from Greenheart, wholesale nurseries, and most of them are small. Okay. Now, I'm going to get to what they said I was going to talk about, the future roses. And this is it. If it's not in a collection, oh, remember I said there was 20,000 of you guys? ARS, about 20,000 people, are looking for specific varieties for a specific purpose. The vast majority of the people who are buying roses want to walk into a store and have it all figured out for them when they get there. The only way we can do that is to put roses into collections. Group the colors, group the characteristics, group the application. Okay? Balconia roses, this is my smallest program. These are all from Cordes. Okay? And it's a focus of ours to produce hanging basket roses. We think there's a place there. There's still a lot of work to do, but we have 7 varieties we're out to the market with, and we've been pushing really hard. We actually have customers selling on Better Home and Gardens website. That white basket you see right there, they ship mail order for $47. They're doing about 150,000 of those baskets a year through Better Homes and Gardens. Great success story, but a really small program when you're growing 9 million roses a year. Oops, too far. So, say again?
What country produces that?
The United States. They're grown by White Flower Farm on the East Coast, and they're sold on... Oh, sorry. It's Cordes, Germany. Yeah. So this is just a simple display. Marketing thing we do during one of our shows, showing people how baskets of roses can be displayed. You see how they're grown small and compact. No one can take home a big rose, not with thorns on it. So we're showing growers, this is how you do it, this is how you would sell it, and away we go. In those are one plant per pot. We try, see, I'm more of a purist, so anything more than one gets a little iffy for me. So most of these guys will put 5 or 6 plants in a pot.
Balconia is still just one, that $47 for one.
It's one plant in that basket finished like that. Now, that's not meaning I'm giving you an example of what one company's doing. Better Home and Garden charges a fortune for their roses. Now, here's a really fun one, and this is a total cheat. And it's listed right on helpmefind.com, but this is one of those things about marketing. You said, where did all these nor'east varieties end up? You have to create collections for the stores to run with. This is this started out the first year as a Walmart program, Garden Treasures. You know what they are? They're micro minis. You see Blushing Mate? Does everybody know what variety that really is? It's Sweet Fairy. Do you see Crimson Treasure? Red Minimo. Gemstone is Spice Drop. Star Ruby is Charlie Brown. The Pieces of 8 is Chasing Rainbows. Rubellite is Livewire. We took a group of existing varieties, and on Help Me Find, if you go on Help Me Find, it'll tell you this variety is really this variety. Well, we couldn't go in with a pirate-themed collection. We had to put names on the varieties that worked. These are micro minis. Some of these were bred in the 1800s. We took a group of varieties that have no royalties associated with them. Do you know how many of those I sold this past spring? 1.5 million plants in 2 weeks delivered to the store.
Are they registered?
Oh, they're all registered. Yeah. We went through the whole thing, but you know what we did? I'm walking, John. See that strap on that 6-pack? We said roses can be grown as annuals. Think out of the box. Why do you have to put pansies in there? Why do you have to put marigolds in there? Put roses in there. It's the best plant anyway. And we went into Walmart. And we got every store in the United States. Every single store in the United States had Garden Treasures. That 6-pack with the carrying handle, color coordinated, absolutely blew them out of the water. And not a great sell-through. I think it sold through at 89, 88, 89%, but that still made money for Walmart, made money for the grower. That entire program came from that little bitty 128 cell. They were shipped to Oklahoma. The grower planted them in the 6-packs. Finished them off they went to the store.
But if this is not the ones that don't have names, they come without the name.
We never sell a rose without the name on it. Every rose we sell has its name and the denomination. The cash and trash factories do the no-name thing.
Yeah.
We don't do that. Other things, you talk about marketing, you got to present roses in a fun way. I'm sure a vast majority of you have heard me talk about Home Depot and the roses always be in the back by the bark and the bricks. Put them out front. Build something fun. Get the kids excited. Look at the little herb gardens with all the cartoon characters on them. The little vegetable gardens with that stuff. You have to do that with roses. I just did the Butte Rose Society the other day, and I told them, I said, I don't think there's anyone under 30 in this room. Where's your sidekick? Bring the sidekick. The grandkids, the nieces, the nephews. If you want to grow this organization, you got to bring the sidekicks. Table to garden. You got me. Whoever flashed me got me. Sorry. That's okay. Table to garden. 18 varieties from Northeast. All standard minis. They have their real names. We didn't change the names on these. The only collection we ever changed the name on was Garden Treasures because I had to. Almost 1 million of these are going out every year. You're talking about, let me see if I can do it off the top of my head. Apricot Twist, Aristocrat, Busy Bee, Cupcake, Denver's Dream, Fireworks, Gala, Iced Raspberry, Innocence, Montana, Sorcerer, Sweet Diana, Teddy Bear, Rainbow's End, and Y2K. And that keeps getting bigger and bigger every year. We keep adding more varieties. And next year, another new Northeast collection is coming out wholesale. But these roses are all over the place. Another fun things and to talk about. Selling roses, marketing roses. See that storyboard there? That storyboard explains that rose can not only be enjoyed on the table as a blooming plant, but it's a good garden plant also. It's not a cash and trash mini rose. These are individual plants with individual personalities that are ready to bring you years and years of enjoyment. We put together bench runners, tags, consumer websites. If you go back home tonight, or when you get home, click up any collection I talked about. There's a consumer website to back it up. Table to Garden has a website. Garden Treasures has a website. People can come on and say, oh, I did this or I did that. Share their ideas. You have to get people excited about each individual program. Sunblaze. Ralph Moore once said he hated what Mayon did to the miniature rose world. Okay? What did Mayon do to the miniature rose world? Okay. In 1983, if you went to a flower shop, you weren't buying miniature roses. If you went to Vaughn's, you weren't buying miniature roses. You were buying Mother's Day, Garnet, Margot Coster, all that stuff. A 1-year-old grown rose planted in an 8 or 10 inch pot and forced for a holiday. Then Mayon came out with Sunblaze. And it was a completely different group of varieties back then. But it literally destroyed what we knew as the holiday crop, shooting for Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Easter and Mother's Day. Miniature roses were born. And at that time, those miniature roses came in, and we were treating them as field-grown roses. They were still being budded onto multiflora, Dr. Huey, harvested for 1 year and put into the container. They just replaced the Costers, the Garnets, and the Polyanthas. But then they figured out how to build the rose factory. And then all of a sudden, they figured out how to unroot these things into a pot and stick 4 or 5 cuttings in there. Then they figured out how to zip them out the door 10 weeks after they stuck the cutting with a poof of color on them. And there come the miniature roses. And up to one point, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, there were 1 billion of those things sold in the United States every year. 1 billion. Now, I bet you they don't even sell 150 million of them. Just, what did they do? They taught their customers to be absolutely terrified of the product they were producing. Because you guys can take them home and figure out how to harden them off and acclimate them and get them into the ground. Average person, those things just melt down the day you take them outside and set them next to the hot tub. That's where I put mine. That's why I bring that up. Sunblaze was taken over exclusively by Greenheart this year. So we took that one too. It's a world domination of miniature roses is what we call it. They weren't doing anything with it. So we rebranded it. We put a new logo on it. We come up with a hip message. And why do I have all these miniature rose collections? Because what do you want to try and avoid? You don't want the customer on this side of the street growing the same roses as the customer on this side of the street. What we are very careful when we sell rose collections, especially to big growers, that in a selling area or a selling region, we won't let one customer have the same variety as another customer. That way they can compete more effectively in the market. If people start selling the same thing, then they're going to create a price war. And we don't want that price to go down or no one's going to win. So then I talk about miniature rose domination. See the fun little story with the page? You've got to have signs up showing people what they're getting, what you can do, keep it exciting. There's the one you guys get that have 30 varieties listed on the back of the tag. So what did we do? We took this one too. So now we have them all except for Polson. And we won't have Polson. And what are we going to do? We're working with them to make sure that the cordanas become garden appropriate as well. It's going to take a little bit of time, and every tag will have the variety on the front of the tag. Okay. This is our crown jewel. This is Mr. Ben Ardella's stuff and a little bit of Jim Sproul's stuff. Everybody had been asking me, what did we do with Frank's seedlings? What did we do with Frank's seedlings? Well, when Frank was alive, Frank told me what to do. Okay? He knew his babies better than anybody, not me. And when we put this collection together, he was very passionate about what he wanted to see in there, and he had the experience to back up what needed to be selected. No one knows his plants better than a breeder. I have 1,700 evaluated seedlings from Frank Benardella sitting in my greenhouse that no one's seen. The last crop. And we said, you know what? We're going to take our time on this one and do it right, because obviously one of them needs going to be named after him. But we want to have our ducks in a row, because I'd like to be introducing Frank Benardella varieties for the next 20 years. He deserves that. Does everybody know who he is? Okay, you ought to. The most passionate man I ever met when it came to roses, and a good president of the ARS as well. My bouquet was Frank's dream. How to get his roses out to a much larger audience. And this is a story I was telling you guys earlier with my bouquet, that we put 3 racks in every Lowe's store in the United States this year. And like I said, within 2 days they were gone, and the sell-through was like 99%. We have one variety in there from Dr. Jim Sproul, which was a yellow, because Frank had issues with yellow. Jim's yellow is really good. This is the kind of stuff that epitomize where the future of roses are going. A very well-balanced, well-managed program that's successful in all regions. Not everything can do that. And there's a lot of varieties that just, in the United States, the Southeast is, in the Northeast are kind of rose hell. They get 3 years of great and 9 months of bad. And they just embrace the 3 months of great. Between humidity, rain, black spot, and Japanese beetles, it's a booger. I'm so glad we don't have Japanese beetles. I just can't imagine a life like that. Anyway, fun stuff. If you guys get a chance, the consumer website for this one is phenomenal. Something fun we did with different growers is we put them in a pink pot. You see how my bouquet is black and pink? We have a grower on the East Coast who saw what we did at this one trade show we set up for this. And they literally took that program and turned this into about 150,000 units a year in that pink pot. I don't like the pink pot, but people are buying it, so I'm have no more to say about it than that. Earlier on in my talk, I got it. Earlier on in my talk, I brought up knockout. And for as much as everybody in this room does not like knockout, you need to be thankful for knockout. Okay? Because honestly, my optimism probably would not be here today if this rose hadn't have showed up. It's plateaued out. Okay, when I say plateaued out, the sales aren't going up, the sales aren't going down. It's just riding a level, middle of the road. Who uses this? Landscapers. Anybody been out to the East Coast recently? They use knockout like we use oleander. They do. It's like going to Germany or Holland and seeing how they use the rugosas. They use knockout on the East Coast. And it's really good at that. It's not a West Coast thing for us. We grow it all out here and send it all over there. But really, it got up to where 6 out of 10 roses bought each year was a knockout variety. That's down to about 4 out of 10 now. Okay?
Bill Regular's made some money. Bill has made some money.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's not doing bad. He's fine. This is the most interesting new thing I've seen in the last couple years, the drift roses. I actually, over in Manteca, where the Bass Pro Shop is, the Hampton Inn there, if you walk through there and you go through the mall, probably the single greatest planting of drift roses I've ever seen in a mall setting. It's 3 years now. They still look phenomenal. Basically, this is all fairy blood. It's all built on the fairy. They're miniature ground covers is exactly what they are. Really, really neat little group of roses where the marketing was done right before the group was invented. Remember, Knockout came out. It was just Knockout. They didn't build the Knockout collection or anything until it started mutating like mad. Drift was actually intended to be a collection, and it was really well done. And the way they're presenting things to garden centers and whatnot. My wife did this one for our big spring show this year. But you, with roses, and I go back and do this, it doesn't need, roses don't deserve to be in the back by the bricks and the bark. They deserve to be the focal point. And when it comes to roses in the future and how we're going to sell them, it's how we tell the story. It's how we get people excited. It's how we hit every age group from the bottom to the top. We've got to get something that's going to get everybody excited.
This spring, I saw a sign or something like this, and it took my eye because the word rose was nowhere in there, like at your top. It just said drift, and I go, oh my God. They're not even mentioning rose for the general public because that would make them shy away from it.
So, this is another version of Knockout from Cortez, Colorscape. It's another one we control. It's brand new. It's being introduced under the Forever and Ever brand, which goes, oh, dude, I forgot. I'm sure that all goes through Lowe's as well. This is Cortez's shot at producing a Knockout type rose. Just sharing. More bold. You see how the marketing's a little bit different? They're aiming this at people between 35 and 45. They're not fragrant. This is cool. This is the verandas from Cortez. I don't know if you guys notice, I have a lot of Cortez genetics. We've been buried in this for a couple years. The verandas are basically compact David Austin English roses. So now you're getting somewhere where you've got some basic hybrid tea looking stuff, like Sunshine Veranda on the top, but look at Angel Veranda, Lavender Veranda, and Blush Veranda. You get that quartered Old English style on a plant that doesn't get over 3.5 foot tall. Cortez has done a really good job of really focusing on disease resistance. And fortunately and unfortunately, Europe has been in no spray trials, what they refer to as the ADR trials, where they've been doing really harsh evaluating of varieties for a number of years. For us in the United States, the only thing we have that even compares to it is the earth kind testing. That's all we have. Everywhere else, we baby those things. Spray, 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 prune, 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 love, love, love. Over there, it's kill, kill, kill. Had anybody ever been to Frank's house in New Jersey, Frank Benardella's house? Okay, you know what the backfield looked like. Kill, kill, kill. That's why we know what works and doesn't work, because if it survived the 10 years he left it back there, you know, you got a pretty good shot, you got a good rose. The verandas, they're not on the market right now. You're going to see them hit the market on 2013. January of 2013, we're going to put about 100,000 of them on QVC. We're going to launch, this is the first time we've ever done this, and we're going to do a full-scale launch on QVC, and then we're going to slam the stores in May. We're trying something a little different. You got to try new things. We're going to do it through QVC to get started. You know what? I'm sure www.greenheartfarms.com. Green is the color, heart is the organ, farms plural.com. Watch the front page of our website. They'll tell you. Well, I didn't hear.
Are you going to get today's special value on QVC?
No. No, and I'm not going on there either. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Disease-resistant, hardy, fragrant, compact, English-style, cottage-type flowers. Very exciting. I've been working on this, just so you know, for 9 years.
On your website, will you be putting when they go into Lowe's or into?
You know, who is this talking to me? Okay. That came up earlier today where I got talked to about it. Nicely, kind of nicely. We'll make that happen. I think, I never thought about telling people which stores they were going to be going into and when, but I think that would be a nice add-on on the website. So I didn't think about it. Okay, now I'll do a slight chastising of the ARS. I have sent out hundreds upon hundreds of letters trying to let people know that all their Northeast, Ralph Moore, and Tiny Petal varieties are still available. And I'd say 20% of the letters I've sent out have been responded to. So now I'm going to make this very, very clear. We have a website, www.greenheartfarms.com. And if you click on the Northeast button, it's going to say Color Link. Okay? Color Link is my way of not having to answer the phone. Hey, I can sell them cheaper this way. There are, on that color, you click on the Northeast button, you're going to get the miniature page, the micro mini page, the climber page, the mini flora page. Okay? And there's 100 and some odd varieties on there. Still more varieties than are listed on anybody else's thing that you, as ARS groups, can buy these plants cheaper than you've ever bought a miniature rose from any miniature mail order company. As an ARS group, which is how most people got around the retail side in the first place. You want me to explain that? We ran a retail company. Almost everybody, as time went along, figured out that if they got together as a group, they could get the roses for half price if they bought them as an ARS group anyway. We're just giving it to you now. We used to get so mad, we'd sit in there and go, well, they're buying one of this and two of this and three of these. What's going on? I sat there, I said, they got together and pulled their order as an ARS group and they're getting them for half price. Go for it. Guys, it's all right there. And I'm actually, for the 20% of the companies or ARS groups that have figured it out, we're still selling more than we did before when we were retail. But all your varieties are still there. And if there's something that's not there that you want, tell us and we'll grow it. What I did is I took 8 years of retail sales and I said, these were the most popular varieties. These are the ones we're going to sell. But like Pine Tree Miniature Roses, you guys all know who that is? I haven't seen him for a while. but they're another mail order company, or Heirloom Miniature Roses, or Burling. They buy stuff off the list all the time. If you tell us, we'll grow it. I got 800 varieties of miniature roses, guys.
Snow chocolate,
Huh?
snow chocolate, we gotta go.
No. Okay, I'm winding up. No, don't. We like to see, as a group, at least 32 plants.
And you'll be available.
Oh, I'm here. No, you've had enough of me over the years. What's up?
What's the future for Boogie Woogie?
Boogie Woogie's in the Table to Garden collection. You remember that, Rose? Yeah. Boogie Woogie's in the Table to Garden collection, and all these varieties that you just saw are all available on ColorLink. Okay? Now, since it's a marketing thing.
You still have any more?
Oh, yeah. No, we never lost anything. We have them all. You guys, probably the largest collection of miniature roses in the world is sitting at my place. So we've got them all. Just remember, roses, and moving forward, you're telling a story, you're giving consumers a product they deserve, and we're selling roses 365 days a year. There's always a day, a holiday, and a reason to buy a rose. And that's it.